Hello and welcome back or welcome to the channel. I'm Loudguns, and in this guide we're going to dive into the world of space trucking with a full comprehensive guide to a cargo hauling in Star Citizen. Within the 4.1 branch at least, the cargo hauling missions are one of, if not the most profitable loop. So if you don't mind a little grunt work, and possibly some grunting, these can be an amazing way to rack up Alpha UEC, allowing you to make poor investment decisions with your in-game wallet rather than your real life one. But it's not all about the money, and for many players, the life of a space trucker, cruising around planetside and trawling the space lanes, is exactly the type of gameplay that they're after. So if this all sounds good to you, grab a cup of tea while I roll the intro, then let's get into it. Cargo hauling missions entered the PU in patch 3.24. Goods will be delivered to your inventory at a pickup location and will just need transportation to one or more delivery points. Upon a successful drop-off, you'll get paid out a fixed amount and build up your reputation with Covalex, the main mission provider in Stanton. These are a great way to experience cargo hauling gameplay without the risk involved in trading, where you front the cash for the goods and you sell them for a profit. This guide is going to be entirely focused on the hauling missions though, as in the current build, the risk return of trading doesn't make a great deal of sense versus the mission route. Similarly, I'm focusing on the missions in the Stanton system, as the ones in Pyro offer a lower risk return given the increased risk of PvP encounters and due to issues that we'll uncover later in the guide. And they're more likely to result in mission failures and slow rep grind. Guides come in all shapes and sizes, and just in case this is the first one of mine that you're catching, I'll be upfront with the fact that it's likely to be on the long side. While I try and keep things as densely packed as I feasibly can, SC is a pretty complex game, and I find that if I rush too much there's a lot of little details that get omitted. As ever though, I'll make sure the chapter markers are updated, so if you just want to get some specific information, look for those and feel free to skip ahead. First up though, I think it's worth discussing our dual goals, getting rich and building reputation, so that we can get richer. Cargo hauling contracts are locked behind rep with the mission giver, and as you progress, you'll be getting access to better and better missions. After completing a basic introductory mission, you'll become a rookie, complete enough rookie missions and you'll become junior, then member, then experienced, then senior, and finally master. So one of the key questions is whether we should be looking to maximise our earnings or our reputation gains. Missions come in varying degrees of complexity and time investment required. And while they may vary in terms of cash payout, each mission of a certain level generates the same fixed amount of XP. In effect, all member rank missions give you the same, all experienced give you the same, etc. And each level gives 2 times as much XP as the last level, so one junior mission is worth 2 rookie missions. Now my recommendation if you're keen to make a career out of cargo hauling is to focus on rep grind over money until you reach the experienced level, and then switch your focus over to making the most cash you can. The highest level of aUEC per hour are pretty much hit at experienced, with senior offering a very mild improvement, and master rank ultimately was a bit of a disappointment, with very few additional missions, and none that we could really use to improve the max aUEC per hour versus the best options at senior. Potentially in future patches we might see additional missions at master, so the rep could be worth having, and if there are I will update a pinned comment down below. But for now, beyond senior certainly, I wouldn't worry about heavily grinding towards that master rank, unless you just want it for the bragging rights. As ever, I recommend investing in a full set of gear, with a full set of armour, backpack, gun, med pens and some cruise lux or other foodstuffs to keep you going on protracted runs. Now that we've got tier 0 item recovery, there's really no risk to going out there with a full set of gear on. Hauling's nowhere near as risky as other professions, since the goods themselves are not really valuable enough to attract pirates. The commodities you're moving are generally cheap to begin with, and on top of that, any pirates trying to sell would need to go through NQA terminals that offer even lower payouts. So they'd be better off targeting salvagers, miners, and traders. However, on the off chance you do find yourself on the receiving end, it's better to have a gun and not need one than need one and not have one. While generally I don't recommend it, for hauling I'll make an exception and go with light armour so that we don't lose movement speed. The most important piece of gear though by far are your tractor beams. I would take a multi-tool with true hold attachment and a max lift with me at all times. So as I mentioned just now, cargo jobs come in all shapes and sizes, but thankfully so do starsets and ships. And when it comes to the hauling missions, unlike mining or salvage, the two other major industrial loops, you are spoilt for choice when it comes to cargo haulers. While pretty much anything with a cargo grid above 12 SEU can technically get you somewhere in hauling, I would say the minimum you would want to consider is around the 60 mark that you find on entry level haulers such as the MISC Hull A, the Crusader C1 Spirit and the MISC Freelancer. In this guide, I'll be using a few of my favourites as I go through, and I'll talk about why I choose them. I would just make a special mention of the Argo Raft. I did this grind in the 4.1 build prior to the Raft's rework coming with 4.1.1, and with a new SEU capacity of 176 and a much more workable grid, it can be incredible for some of these missions. However, at the higher levels and to speed up some of the grind, bigger is generally speaking better. The Crusader Hercules C2, which will set you back 18.9 million credits in-game, is a fantastic big box, with plenty of space for multiple smaller missions. Owning one of these is going to make for the fastest ticket from rookie to experienced rank, and can make tidy profits beyond that. But if you're looking to really maximise the earning potential of cargo from the experienced rank onwards, then you will want to invest in a MISC Hull C. That will set you back 16.5 million. The larger of the two Hull series ships currently available is the biggest hauler in game with a total carrying capacity of 4,608 SCU. This beast is spacebound and it can only be used for runs between space stations with cargo decks. But these are some of the most profitable mission types of the profession, and since you can benefit from the automated loading and unloading, a Hull C is essentially this patch's money printing machine. Please do keep in mind that none of this is me saying that you should go out and part with hard currency for these ships, and as ever in SC, we could always see changes that vastly reduce the earning potential of these ships. Obviously, it's your money, you earned it, and I am not going to tell you what to do with it. But personally I think that the current iteration of cargo hauling offers excellent opportunities for progression, with the ability to start with rentals that will pay for themselves in just a mission or two, and earn your way up to the larger classes of ship. Just remember that if you are creating an account and hopping in to do a bit of space trucking, that using a referral code when you get started will give you a bit of extra starter capital. Mine's the one up on screen, but if you've got any mates who play already, just ask them for theirs. So from this point on, we'll be focusing on the rep grind from rookie up to experienced, and we'll take each mission step by step. Since I was already a member when I started making this, I've had to head to my alt account to get a clean start. But I think that's perfect to highlight how you don't need loads of cash or big ships to get into the loop and effectively complete the early levels just using rentals. I'm going to rent this Constellation Taurus from New Babbage on Microtech. You'll find it at the Regal Luxury Rentals kiosk at the spaceport. This cargo variant of the Connie series is the most SEU available to rent at 174 SEU. And while it will set you back 161k for a 24-hour period, it'll easily pay for itself in a single run once you've knocked out the intro mission. If you are starting out brand new and you want to jump into cargo without delay, then the MISC Hull A is also available to rent for 34k per day, and you can grab that from any of the LEO stations like Seraphim or Everest Harbour. At 64 SEU, you won't be able to stack so many jobs, but it's a great little ship that will definitely get your bank balance beefed up to the point that the Taurus is just no issue. We're going to begin at one of the LEO stations, as all of the trial contracts involve shifting a small consignment between the orbital station and the spaceport at the major landing zone down below it. This mission that comes up will be geographically dependent, so if you're in the Crusader system, you'll get Seraphim to Orizon, if you're in Hurston you'll get Everest to Lorville and so on. My recommendation for the early levels will be to start a Crusader. We're primarily going to focus for the first levels on stacking contracts just between the LEO and the spaceport. ArcCorp and Crusader are the best locations for this, as these planetary systems don't have distribution centres that are found in Hurston and Microtech. Distro centres create another major planetary location, and therefore the LEO to surface contracts get split up more, so you can't stack them as efficiently. Now I prefer Crusader over ArcCorp because more people prefer ArcCorp over Crusader. Some folks will highlight how AC has a slightly lower jump ceiling than Crusader. However, between other haulers and the amount of people who set their home location as Area 18 due to the city's plentiful amenities and relatively quick time from the hubs, there's just more traffic, and therefore there's more risk that you get stuck in a queue to exit your hangar from the spaceport. If you're doing this in patch 4.1.1, this is going to be particularly pronounced, since so many people will set their spawn at Area 18 because of the Invictus launch week show. So I'm here at Seraphim Station, so let's go ahead and open the Mobiglass with F1, and then navigate to Contract Manager along the bottom. Under the hauling category, we'll find the intro mission, so just go ahead and accept that. We can then call the rental Taurus out and head to the medium hangar that it spawns. In your hangar, send the cargo elevator down, and you'll see the consignment in your inventory over on the right hand side. Drag that across to the elevator and bring it back up. To make things a bit quicker, I would bring the shipping closer to the elevator before trying to load it. You want to reduce the time it takes you to drag these across. Drop the cargo hold and get to loading. Now you could use the Taurus's onboard tractor beam to load these boxes, but personally I find it a bit janky, with the crosshairs not locking onto the target and the beam sometimes trying to interact with the floor of the elevator rather than the box. So if it's my only option, then I just use the max lift. Now it's not how you have to approach these things, but I just can't help myself. I am a filthy min-maxer at heart. The doors take a fair while to open, there's always a chance of a queue, so I always make my call to ATC to request takeoff first. Then I do all the other bits I can to just speed myself up, switching to nav mode so I'm ready to make the jump ASAP, setting my course for Horizon in the Mobiglass, hovering the ship and bringing up the landing gear, just so I'm ready to blast out the doors as soon as possible. When we're hauling, we're going to be spending most of our time in nav mode for maximum speed. Just be sure that you have the max amount of pips on your engines to speed up boost regeneration. Then lean heavily on your afterburner whenever you can to make trips like this one through ammo as fast as possible. Upon arrival in the hangar, park as close as possible to that freight elevator, keeping in mind that for the medium hangars and upwards you'll have two to choose from, one at each end. Drop your cargo hold and move those boxes onto the freight elevator, and then send that down. When you click on the lower button, you'll get a readout of the contract that you're completing, and this can be useful for just making sure that you're not missing a crate. Click confirm to send the elevator down and complete the mission. With this done, we'll be 50k richer and have completed our trainee rank, and will now have access to rookie missions with Kovalex. Before we move on though, I do want to take a quick detour into Horizon, heading for the Cloudview Centre on the Metro, where we'll find the Crusader Industries showroom. I'm not expecting to be able to trade up to a better ship after just one cargo mission. I would recommend that as soon as possible you part with 75,600 credits to get yourself an Argo Atlas. The Atlas is an absolute must-have for cargo haulers. This mech suit is designed to throw boxes around with wild abandon, and it will vastly speed up your loading and unloading. Don't worry if you didn't start a Crusader, the Atlas can also be purchased at the ship shops at Area 18 and Lawville, as well as the ones in Pyro at Checkmate or Bitchery and Ruin. You want to call the Atlas out first, and walk it off to the side of the hangar, and then you can call your main ship up. Now we want to start mission stacking. We're looking for any missions that involve moving cargo directly between Seraphim Station and August Dunlow Spaceport. As you can probably see immediately, the cargo hauling missions reveal that an update to the contract manager is sorely needed. We're looking for any that are described as direct, meaning one pickup and one drop-off, and planetary, as opposed to solar, meaning between space stations, or interstellar, meaning they involve at least one jump gate station. Thankfully, since these things are at least localized, we're only going to see planetary missions in the Crusader system. We won't see the ones for Hurston or ArcCorp while we're here. But we do want to exclude any of the ones that take us to other locations, such as Brio's Breakyard or the mining facilities. Generally speaking, you do want to avoid contracts that take you to the mining facilities. The elevators there are a lot more temperamental, and there's a lot more chance that you turn up and you're not actually able to complete it. So I've managed to stack up 6 missions in short order. 5 of these run from Seraphim to Horizon, while one is going the other way from the spaceport where we are to the station. By stacking missions, we're going to be getting the most out of each and every trip that we make. And by getting cargo hauling both ways, even if it's just one job, we'll just make sure that we never make a wasted journey. So having called up the cargo, it's time to load it with the Atlas. A good way to make this a lot quicker is to use the free look rather than moving the whole mech left and right all the time. Simply hold down your free look key and look over towards the cargo boxes until one highlights green. Left click to pick it up and draw it towards you, and then free look back over towards the cargo grid of the ship. Where the light blue outline appears is where the box will go when you then left click again. And this way you can load and unload really quickly. Once I drop that load off, I can bring the elevator back up with the 5 jobs I'd accepted, and I can get them loading onto the ship. So this way, just keep in mind that you don't need to go anywhere but the hangar, so you can really quickly go back and forth with these jobs. You can use the mouse wheel and the angle of your viewpoint to get the boxes going exactly where you want them to go. We're unlikely to use every inch of the Connie's cargo hold with this run, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but getting the knack of loading quickly and efficiently and using the maximum amount of your space is going to be something you want to master in the long run. Once I've got the first batch loaded, I'll take another look at the contracts. Since a bit of time has passed since I accepted the first bunch, a couple more have popped up between Seraphim and Horizon, so I'll grab those as well, which will take my total for this run to 7 missions. Once those are loaded, just before you close up the hold, make sure you have a quick look around to make sure you grab any escapee boxes. You don't want to turn up down at the spaceport and find out that one of your jobs is just one shy. Then load up your Atlas and make the trip back down. One common bug that you might encounter with the Atlas is its refusal to walk when you hop into it. No idea what causes this, but to work around it, first just try getting out and back in to see if that registers it, and failing that, just pick it up and move it a short distance with one of your handheld tractor beams. This seems to resync it and get it working. With all of the boxes loaded up on the elevator, we can go ahead and get that sent down. Checking the list to just make sure that we've got all the necessary commodities for completion. That one shipment will have netted us 338,750 credits. And once we factor in the additional 100k we made from the trainee contract and the run we did on the return journey, we're approaching 450k so far, putting the 160k that we paid to rent the Taurus into perspective. If you can get a session of a couple of hours, you can easily make a couple of million credits even after your rental costs are taken into account, making this an amazing way to jumpstart your ship collection. On top of that, it's the most efficient way to grind this early rep, and those 8 rookie jobs that we have completed have already pushed us over into the junior rank, opening up new missions. Now, while ranking up to junior has opened up new opportunities, for this rank in particular, if you're taking the rental Hull A or Connie Taurus approach, I'd actually just recommend that you do more of the same, focusing on the rookie missions and stacking up as many as you can. Let's take this example, a junior mission from Seraphim to August Dunlow that'll involve shifting 106 SCU of cargo. You can see here that the max box size is up to 8 SCU, and the key principle to understand from the outset is that the different box types and how the job will be efficiently split by the available crates. Cargo containers in SC come in 7 sizes: 1 SCU, 2, 4, 8, 16, 24 and 32. Some weird reason, none of the cargo missions actually use the 24s, so really there's only 6 to worry about here. Whatever the total for delivery is, we'll utilise the most efficient assortment of those containers, up to the max size stated. So this 106 SCU job will be split into 12 8 SCU crates, giving 104 SCU, and the spare 2 will just be a 2. So that's a total of 13 crates, and they will take up more than half of my Connie's cargo grid. While the Taurus has 174 SCU on paper, that doesn't mean it can take 21 8 SCU crates. It only actually has space for 14 of them, since the main grid is 14 deep, 4 wide and 3 high, while the 8 SCU crate is 2x2x2. So I'd only actually be able to get one mission like this on board for a run, and due to the larger, more awkward box shapes, it would take me a lot longer to load. Meanwhile, this rookie job is giving me 9 SCU to move, with a max box size of 4 SCU. So essentially it's 3 crates, 2 4s and a 1. Even if it was 8 to 11 single 1 SCU crates, as a lot of these rookie missions are, that's going to be way less hassle. As I mentioned in the beginning when talking about rep, the junior mission will give me twice as much reputation gain as the rookie contract. I can confidently say that I can load more than 2 of these rookie jobs faster than I can load 1 of the junior ones, and I can cram far more of them on board. Now you could always get the absolute most out of your tourists and load 1 junior run along with a bunch of rookie runs, but chances are, due to the bigger boxes blocking you from smoothly loading with your Atlas, and the extra time taken, it wouldn't be as efficient. So don't let me stop you if you want to just experience the gameplay. If you're looking to speed up your run from junior to member, then if you're using a Taurus, stick to rookie if you're operating that smaller ship. Of course, if you are lucky enough to already be in possession of a Hercules, then you can race through the junior rank by just grabbing every junior mission from Seraphim to Dunlow, as well as every rookie mission. With the C2's massive cargo hold and high ceilings, the box size issue isn't really a thing, and then you'll be getting the benefit of all of the extra money and all of the extra rep. So having hit member rank, you'll be really glad to know that I'm not going to say more of the same and keep shuffling between LEO and Spaceport. Instead, we're going to be doing a change of scenery and heading over to the cold environs of Microtech. Remember back to the distro centres I mentioned earlier in the video? Well, now we no longer want to avoid them. Member rank unlocks planetary small cargo halls that involve 1 pickup location and 3 drop-off locations. In Microtech and Hurston, these appear split between the distribution centres and the major landing zones. You won't find missions like this in Crusader or Area 18 because they don't have those distro centres. They offer pretty decent payouts of 90k to 123k each, and thankfully they're in plentiful supply, meaning that we can once again get stacking, since there's a huge amount of crossover in terms of the locations that they bring you to. When selecting the missions, one thing I do tend to try to avoid is contamination of commodities. We'll see exactly why when we complete some of these. I look to only take unique commodities. So for instance, this contract wants me to pick up stims from Port Tressler, so I wouldn't take another contract asking me to take and deliver stims. Now here, much like with the junior and rookie ranks before, big is beautiful. The more cargo capacity you have, particularly with a bit of room to move around in between, the better. So I'm going to be defaulting to using my C2 for this part of the grind. This isn't to say that you can't do this in a rental Taurus, it will just be a wee bit slower, since you just don't have so much capacity, so you won't be able to take as many missions comfortably. As we did with the rookie missions, I'm just going to take missions, load, and then check for new missions. And using this technique, I've managed to accrue 10 member rank missions, all picking up from Port Tressler. Across all 10, there's a total of 5 locations to deliver to, 4 distribution centres and the spaceport down in New Babbage. The cargo is mostly in smaller crates, maxing out at 4 SCU. And what I aim to do is create neat stacks separating the cargo types from one another. All my tungsten in one pile, clearly distinct from my aluminium, distinct from my stims, etc, etc. And the C2 is really perfect for this, since with the massive grids I've got plenty of space to create walking paths between the different types. This way it's just much easier to find the cargo that you need to fulfill the various orders at the different sites. Once you're loaded up, pick your first site to make drop-off. It doesn't honestly matter which one you do first. As per the mission description, you can deliver in any order. I tend to just have one of the missions tracked and head to the marked locations on the HUD. Now the distro centres themselves are massive and they have options for both hangar and exterior pad landings. I generally prefer the pads since they are faster to land at with no need to call for landing permission. If you find any problems with elevators next to them, you can always just use your call ATC command to request and land in a hangar instead, where the armistice zone interactions and elevators are more reliable. In some patches where these distribution centres are really popular, then you can also find that all of the pads are occupied by abandoned ships. The hangars are instanced just like the ones up at spaceports and down at major landing zones, so if you call for the hangar, you'll always get an empty one. There are 4 pads though, 2 on each side of the main building, and each will have an elevator, so just park in as close as possible. Admittedly with a Herc, this can be a bit of a challenge at times. One slight annoyance if you use the HUD markers is that it might not instantly be obvious which site you're at. Just open the map with F2 once you land, and the location name will be there down at the bottom, or when you scroll out slightly. This allows you to match your first drop-off with the mission details in the top right corner of your HUD. So this way I know I'll need a 4 SEU of stims to match the delivery here. Just remember that little factoid about the efficient distribution. We've got two 3 SEU drop-offs, so there'll be a 2 and a 1, while the 4 SEU drop-off here is going to be the single 4 SEU box. The 4 SEU delivery would not be 2 of the 2 SEU crates. I know this is maths, but some weirdos like me enjoy it, and to be fair, it's going to save you a lot of time if you know which boxes you need. I'm going to just drop this box onto the elevator and click to lower it, but I'm not actually going to confirm yet. Instead, I'll use this menu to look at the other commodities that match my other missions here. So we also need 9 SEU of ice and 4 SEU of food. It'll even tell us which boxes are required if you don't like the maths part. You can scroll this list to see if there's more, but we've just got 2 to make it this stop. This is where that cargo separation comes in, allowing us to quickly locate the crates that we need and chuck them out of the ship. When I've got a lot of drop-offs to make at a single location, I'll tend to make a big pile at the bottom of the C2 ramp, then I yeet the boxes across to the elevator using the ATLS to speed things along. With the elevator full, send it down to complete these deliveries, and then head back up above the jump ceiling and make the jump down to the next location. By taking these ones, all of our locations are around Microtech, so we've got nothing to run around in between. You do want to avoid taking the local delivery missions, because those will take you off to the moons, and they again involve mining sites which are far less reliable than distro centres. 4 locations later, and we'll have successfully knocked off 9 missions, making around 1 million credits. Now start to finish, this run took me around an hour and a half. So here we're definitely into the realm of rep versus money, because running purely rookie missions from LEO to space station, you would probably make more money. You can complete roughly 16 of those an hour, so give or take you'd be raking in approximately 800k. Meanwhile, if we take my 1 mil in 90 minutes as a benchmark, then the member contracts only make 6 to 700k per hour. However, because member missions give 4 times as much rep, those 10 member missions are worth 40 rookie contracts, and we'd only complete around 24 of those in the same amount of time. So in terms of rep grind per hour, this is way more effective than the options that offers more cash. Now we've hit experience rank, there's an interesting choice to make. At this rank, we have pretty much unlocked the highest earning potential that cargo hauling offers, so reputation grind really falls off. In the making of this guide, I was absolutely determined to go all the way up to master, but a big part of that is so that I could really science what difference it makes, and if indeed it's worth it. Ultimately, I can say with confidence that, as of the current time, it's just not. Instead, if your main reason for doing hauling is to rack up aUEC, then your goal at this stage should be to invest in a MISC Hull C and go into Stellar. All the way from Rookie, you'll have been able to access at least one Interstellar run, moving cargo between one of the gateway stations, Terra, Pyro and Magnus, and either an LEO station or another gateway. But at Experienced, you unlock a ton of them, and a whole bunch that are designed specifically for the sea, with cargo up to 4000 SCU. These crate sizes also go up to the largest 32 SCU variety. Now, having just spent all of that build-up shifting boxes around between freight elevators and ships with the ATLS, you'll be really glad to know that you're not expected to do this by hand. The Hull C can only be automatically unloaded and loaded using the cargo deck system, so you don't need to get your hands dirty. And the payouts from these missions get really tasty, with 2 contracts offering the max payout of 698,000 credits, one for a run between Terra Gateway and Pyro Gateway, and the other from Everest Harbour round Hurston to Pyro Gateway. You'll also find a wealth of other contracts, with plenty of good routes to build up, making money every time that you're jumping. Especially considering that you can always take the 600 SCU-ish missions designed for the C2, these will load just as well onto your Hull C as the larger contracts do. And keep in mind that you may find routes which offer you the ability to take 2 contracts at once going from the same location, allowing you to double back. If rep grind is still your thing at this point, then you should really prioritise looking for routes where you can do this, maximising the amount of contract completions as opposed to the amount of money. But honestly, at this stage, I'd be looking to maximise the amount of the 698k runs that I'm making. If you are looking for ultra min-max, then prioritise routes that take you from gateway to gateway, over routes that involve an LEO. With the gateway stations, you can always make a direct jump, and pop out 25 kilometers from the target station, whereas the LEOs will involve a multi-stage jump to the planet and then potentially around it before you line up on the LEO. Gate-to-gate runs are just more efficient even if it's a bit of a longer QT trip. One thing I would definitely say is to invest in upgrading your Hull C's jump drive. Now with high-spec military components including the TS2 locked behind contested zones and exec hangars, you could always try your hand there. Check out my guide for those, by the way. But this is also a great time to highlight how, for most industrial use cases, there are components that are practically as good still to be found in the shops for credits, of which you probably have plenty at this point. The Aeroboss is the civilian grade A jump drive. It can be purchased at the ARCL-1 station's Platinum Bay shop for 320k. I prefer this to the industrial Agni drive, which is admittedly a bit cheaper at 143k, since despite a slight speed difference, the faster acceleration of the Aeroboss means that jumps of anything up to 60 GM are just as quick if not faster. And it has a far quicker cooldown time, meaning that if you do need to make those multi-stage QT jumps, you'll shave a lot of time off. For an example 59 GM jump between ArcCorp and Microtech, the Aeroboss will make it in 3 minutes and 36 seconds, while the TS2 would do it 22 seconds quicker at 3:14. These are honestly the sort of differences that you wouldn't even notice. But if you leave the drive as the stock Karma, this same jump hops up to 4 minutes and 7. So it's definitely worth an upgrade, particularly considering the price of the drive is half of one contract. Fuel efficiency on the Karma is also way higher, and while in the context of the profits you'll be making, 19k to fill up the tank on the Hull C is spare change, the time taken to refuel is time that you could be better spent making runs. With the Hull C out of the hangar and a mission accepted, it's time to call for cargo transfer. You can do this either from the comms panel on your MFDs, or from the F11 comms menu in your Mobiglass. Just make sure to call the cargo deck, not the actual station, as that would request landing. Doing this successfully will give you a blue hollow cube, which indicates the area that you need to drive the Hull C into and bring it to a complete stop within. In order to receive cargo, you'll also need to make sure that the Hull C is extended by pressing Alt and K. Now, a lot of the Hull C stuff is about working around a few bugs, and one that I've noticed is that if the call to cargo ATC doesn't go through immediately, it's likely to just stall out. So cancel the call and try again until it just flicks up and closes after a split second. This might take a few goes, and I personally find it easier to do through the F11 menu rather than using the MFD panels. When you're stopped within the cube, then the message on screen should change to commencing cargo transfer, and you'll see the boxes start to appear on your ship. This is another point of bug potential, where the cargo transfer won't start because the game, incorrectly, doesn't register your ship as completely halted. To get around this, move your ship slowly and smoothly in one single direction, so just straight up, or strafe to one side, and then bring it to a halt again. This should trip the system and start the process. If it doesn't work after 10 or 15 seconds, just go ahead and try making a small movement again. One thing I did notice whilst doing a lot of this interstellar space trucking is that some servers, which have maybe degraded past the point of no return, are just balked and useless for Hull C operation. I particularly saw this when I was on a very low population server. Got to just stop and think, maybe if it's low pop for a reason. If you're struggling with this, then you are just better off server hopping and finding a new one. I would also say don't trust the timer. It quite often gets stuck, so just watch an external view for the boxes being loaded. As long as they're ticking along and getting added, you're fine as long as you hold still. During loading, that hollow box will fade away, but it'll pop back up when the loading is complete. So just watch for that happening and then exit the area fairly promptly, just so you don't get registered as blocking the flight bay and impounded. Then set course for your destination and kick back while you QT. I found this a great way to get laundry done, and my wife was very happy for a couple of weeks. Now with the Hull C fully loaded, you'll find it handles quite differently, particularly if you've taken it close to its full capacity with one of the larger missions or multiple smaller ones. Acceleration is really slow, but so is slowing down, so just be careful not to build up more speed than you can handle. I found it really useful to fly decoupled for this part, with my vector indicator always on, so you can toggle this in the game settings. This way I can aim the ship and really comfortably control the speed. Remember that you'll always be aiming for the cargo arm of the station, so visually identify it and aim for the area around that. Just be sure to never aim directly at any solid part of the station. That way, worst case scenario, you misjudge the slowdown and you go on past your target rather than directly splatting into it. When you get into range, call the cargo deck again to get your loading area, and repeat the process, flying into the box and letting the auto unload complete. Now in the current patch, this is where you'll almost certainly run into one of the Hull C's bugs. Quite often, a few of the boxes don't register, and the mission won't complete itself. However, as long as most of the job is done, you can go into your contract manager and hit submit. This will complete the mission, and you'll get a slightly scaled back payout, and the rep. Normally, you're just a few SEU shy, so there's really no risk. I've got successful completions with as little as 75% of the cargo. I'm honestly not sure about going much lower than that, and I don't think I'd risk it. I can't stress this next part enough. Never ever ever hit abandon on a cargo hauling contract. This will fail the mission, and you will take a sizable rep hit. If you have any problems with cargo not appearing or missions that fail to register, just untrack it and take another, but ultimately exit to menus with that contract active. The game will forget about it, and you won't lose any of your hard-won reputation. When stacking runs, I found it best to do my delivery and then move out of the box, and then look in my contracts for a mission running from that station to the next one. Found at times that the auto-loading got a bit confused if I tried to fly into the box and have the drop-off and the pickup active at the same time for the same location. But with enough runs like this, you will eventually tick over into the senior rank and ultimately master. But these step-ups are decidedly anticlimactic. Hull C interstellar runs are far and away the best aUEC per hour, and as long as you're min-maxing and at least 50% of those runs are the 698k contracts, you should be making upwards of 1.5 million credits per hour. Going up to senior only unlocks one additional large Hull C contract, and it pays 711k. So yes, you do slightly improve your earnings, but it's honestly nothing to write home about. Meanwhile, Master Rank doesn't currently include any additional interstellar contracts, so from an earning potential, there's nothing to be gained here. Speaking with some friends over on Discord, there's a link down to that in the video description by the way, we've pondered as to whether later in the game's development we might see Master Rank interstellar runs aimed at the even larger hulls like the D and the E, when they make it into the PU. Now personally, while I consider myself a min-maxer, I prefer my gameplay on the exploit light side of things, and I enjoy the more immersive aspects of the game, so while I will always try to be efficient, I often don't push things to the nth degree that I could. However, I do understand that if your goal is purely to get behind the sticks of something like a Carrack or an 890 jump, then you'll be interested in the ultimate money-making methods. As I mentioned, the most profitable routes are the ones where you take a large 700k Hull C mission one way and then one of the 200k-ish ones back. Ideally, this is between two gateway stations to make for the quickest jumps. However, you could push things a little further by investing some of your earnings in not one, but two Hull Cs. Once at senior rank, the 711k mission will pop from Terra Gateway, and it will either take you to Pyro Gate or Magnus Gate. This distinction is just server dependent. It doesn't flip-flop between the two. Just on some servers it's Terra Pyro, on others it's Terra Magnus. So step 1, server hop until you get a Terra to Pyro route. The trip to Pyro Gate is about 60 GM versus 120 or so for the trip to Magnus, so you're going to cut down your time substantially. Then making sure that your second Hull C is claimed or claiming at Terra Gateway, and your spawn is set there, make the run. And once it's complete, At least be a decent sort and QT away a tiny bit to avoid leaving Hull C carcasses cluttering up the jump lanes or approach to the station, but then abandon ship, backspacing your way back to Terra, where Hull C2 is claimed and ready to go, and do another 711k run. Just make sure to claim Hull C1 before you leave. This way you'll be completing a 711k run every 15 to 20 minutes, upping your earnings into the 2 to 3 million per hour range. Right now in game, there isn't any consequence for death. You would lose stuff in your backpack, but if you're doing it this way, then it's not like you need crews or spare med pens, so you won't lose anything. This won't always be the case, and like I said, I prefer not to constantly break the immersion by fast travelling. But if I omit this method completely from a money-making orientated guide, then I'd probably have a bunch of comments telling me that I missed it. But I think that rounds me out to my final point. Make sure that you're having fun. Star Citizen as a game is not well balanced, particularly on the economic incentive side of things. There's always going to be a loop which turns out through accident or design to be the money printer of the patch. We had it with quant mining back in 3.12 when I started playing and making videos, we had it with reclaimer structural salvage, we had it with illegal salvage cargo, and now, to my mind, we've got it with Hull C cargo hauling missions. It might hang around for a while, or it might disappear in a future patch if CIG decide to nerf it. Personally, I like to focus on having fun above all else. I've got to say that doing all this hauling I've done making this guide has been just that. I particularly loved the smaller deliveries for the member rank grind, and I've really fallen for the Hull C. There's something particularly about the approach to the station, building that skill of piloting a really massive heavy ship, that I think will serve me well as we see future ships like the RSI Orion Super Heavy Miner. Honestly, the part that was the least fun was agonising over how much rep I was getting as I crawled my way up to Master. If anyone wants to know, it's roughly 50 senior or equivalent, in effect 100 experienced runs. But if the fun stops at any point, just put it down and do something else, or maybe approach cargo hauling with a fun per hour mentality rather than a rep or aUEC per hour one. Now that I've got my fat wallet and I've got the bragging rights of a master hauler, I've actually been really enjoying stacking a few of the experienced rank small planetary deliveries in my C1, and just running them around Microtech. Flying a tiny nimble ship after hours behind the sticks of super tankers, and focusing on the efficiency of my packing given the small available space, has just been a great experience if nothing else. So I guess I'll leave it there and bring this to a close. Once again, the script of one of my guides is rivaling my university dissertation for word count, so thanks very much for sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed the vid and got something out of it. I'm working to redo all of my guides and make sure they're up to date, so if you're interested in trying something else, then we also have those up for gem mining and contested zones already. And stay tuned as we dive into ship mining, salvage and more in future weeks. If you think I've earned it, then liking, subscribing and commenting are all hugely appreciated. It helps massively if you share this with your friends and orgmates. Word of mouth is by far the best advertising. If you would like to support the channel further, then I do have a Patreon, which is linked in the video description down below. Honestly, just by watching, you're already doing more than enough. So with all that said, I just want to say thank you for staying till the end, and I look forward to seeing you next time.